The Pentagon is tracking 27 attacks on U.S. and coalition forces in Iraq and Syria over the past couple of weeks. Pentagon Press Secretary Air Force Brig General Pat Ryder said during a press briefing Tuesday. Ryder said 16 of those small-scale attacks have been against U.S. targets in Iraq and 11 were in Syria. To his knowledge, there were no injuries or significant damage to infrastructure as a result of the most recent attacks. 6 of those attacks came after the U.S. launched retaliatory self-defense airstrikes on 2 locations in eastern Syria linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps on October 26, according to the Pentagon. In the earlier attacks, 21 U.S. personnel were injured from assaults that used drones to target Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq and Al-Tanf garrison in Syria, the Associated Press reported. All of the injured personnel had minor injuries and have since returned to duty. Our message is we will take whatever necessary actions to protect those forces to deter future attacks, said Ryder. Ryder emphasized the situation in Iraq and Syria is separate from the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. He said the U.S. troops in those locations are there as part of ongoing efforts to defeat ISIS. Although it seems the attacks on U.S. targets have increased since the start of the latest Israel-Hamas war, Ryder said this isn't the first time the U.S. military has seen Iranian proxy groups take these kinds of actions in Iraq and Syria. The groups behind the attacks are funded, trained, and sponsored by the Iranian government, Ryder said. Therefore, the U.S. holds them responsible. They targeted the very foundations of U.S. influence in the region, bringing with them a storm of chaos and uncertainty. The damage was substantial. Vital infrastructures were compromised, military assets were lost, and the morale of the troops was severely tested. Yet it was the ripple effect of this attack that sent shockwaves through the geopolitical landscape. In the aftermath, the U.S. stood firm, resolute in the face of adversity. The administrations in Washington were quick to respond, reinforcing their commitment to peace and stability in the region. There was a show of solidarity with their allies and a stern warning to those who dared to disrupt the balance of power. Yet the tension was palpable. The air was thick with a sense of impending conflict as the Middle East found itself on the precipice of a crisis. The chessboard was set, the players were ready, and the game was about to take a dangerous turn. The first strike was just the beginning. As the attacks continue, a broader conflict looms. It's a palpable tension, a shroud of uncertainty cloaking the Middle East. The escalation of attacks on U.S. bases has sparked concerns about a wider conflict, a battlefield far beyond the familiar territories. Hezbollah, with a vast arsenal of rockets that could penetrate Israel's defense system, poses a significant threat. Meanwhile, Iran, the puppeteer behind Hezbollah, stokes the fires of conflict, exploiting the turmoil to further undermine Israel. Incidents like the hospital attack in Gaza are potent fuel for this raging fire, inciting rage and rallying support against the U.S. and Israel. The risks of the U.S. getting militarily involved are not lost on anyone. A trap potentially lies in wait, a ploy to lure Israel and the U.S. into a larger, more complicated conflict. And if the U.S. does get involved, it could provoke attacks by Iran's allies, escalating the conflict even further. The situation is spiraling and the stakes are higher than ever. This is no longer just about individual attacks, it's about the balance of power in the Middle East, the survival of alliances, and the very real risk of a wider war. And in this high-stakes game, the next move could determine the fate of the region. In the face of adversity, the U.S. is taking a stand. It's building alliances, connecting air defense systems, and deploying aircraft carriers as a show of strength. Israel, a key ally, is receiving unwavering support amidst escalating turmoil. Yet the path to peace is not without its challenges. Resistance from Arab nations, the potential for a broader regional conflict, and domestic opposition are significant hurdles. The U.S. is also bracing for possible retaliations from Iran's allies and an unpredictable reaction from global players like Russia and China. The U.S. is fighting fire with fire, but only time will tell if it's enough.